Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring Ekko, the boy who shattered time.
This is how we say hello in Zon.
Ekko's a rebellious street kid with smarts, a daredevil genius who uses his inventions to survive and thrive on the corrupted streets of Zon. In-game, Ekko plays the role of a solo lane skirmishing assassin who uses his guile and crowd control gadgets to outsmart and outmaneuver his targets before blinking in to bludgeon them down. Ekko's passive is Z-Drive Resonance. Whenever Ekko hits an enemy with a basic attack or damaging ability, he applies a stack of resonance. The stacks drop off after a few seconds, but if Ekko's able to thunk the same target 3 times in quick succession, the stacks trigger, dealing extra damage and slowing the target briefly. That's against minions and monsters. Triggering resonance on an enemy champion applies the same extra damage and slow, but also gives Ekko a brief speed boost. Finally, Ekko can apply resonance to multiple targets at the same time, and after triggering his stacks on a target, they briefly turn immune to his passive for a few seconds. Ekko's Q is Timewinder, a medium-range skill shot that serves as his primary damage and harass ability. Ekko tosses out a chrono gizmo that damages all units in its path. Once the device reaches its max distance or strikes an enemy champion, it expands, creating a large but short-lasting slowing field. After it collapses back down, Timewinder shoots back to Ekko, dealing extra damage to whatever the ability strikes on its way home. With good aiming, you should be able to hit your lane opponent twice, so get super aggressive with Timewinder. After you land it, all you have to do is walk up, which should be easy enough thanks to the ability Slow, and smack him in the face to trigger your passive. Ekko's W is Parallel Convergence, which has a passive and an active. Passively, Ekko's basic attacks deal extra magic damage to all low health enemies, including minions, monsters, and yes, champions. When he activates his W, he bats a time thing to a target location, which, after a brief pause, creates a pretty big slowing sphere. It'll fade away after a few seconds, but if Ekko manages to enter the sphere before then, it'll detonate and grant him a quick shield. Even better though, enemies caught inside the sphere when Ekko detonates it end up stunned for a few seconds. Ekko's enemies see him cast Parallel Convergence, but won't be able to spot where he aims it until just a few moments before the zone kicks in. Cast Parallel Convergence on your escape route whenever you're running for safety. The shield usually helps you survive incoming damage, and the slow zone will leave most enemies in the past. Ekko's E is Phase Dive. On cast, Ekko dashes a fixed distance to a target location before gaining a bunch of range on his next basic attack. Once Ekko begins his next attack, he blinks to his target, dealing extra damage and applying all the on-hit and spell effects he has hidden up his sleeve. Remember that Ekko can pass through terrain with both parts of Phase Dive, meaning he can get pretty damn slippery when he wants to. Yo, Phase Dive has a ton of uses. Dive across walls, dodge enemy skill shots before blowing up a squishy, or, if you like living, just use it to make your way to safety. Hella uses. Ekko's ult is Chrono Break. Whenever it's available, Ekko leaves behind an image of himself that indicates wherever he was exactly 4 seconds ago. When he hits his Giga Chrono Break button, that's where he'll reappear, dealing massive damage to all nearby enemies and recovering a portion of his lost health. The trail is a super useful way for Ekko to keep track of where he's going to Chrono Break back to. But remember that it's not just him that can see it. Allies and enemies can too, although they will need vision of Ekko. Note that Ekko briefly turns untargetable and invulnerable whenever he uses Chrono Break, and that when he reappears, he'll heal up based on the amount of punishment he's taken over the last 4 seconds. Use Chrono Break to dive a little bit deeper, or abandon your teammates when the fight goes wrong. It's not your fault they can't time travel. Ekko's one of them newfangled skirmishing assassins, so while he lacks some of the raw punching power that other assassins boast, he's got a ton of crowd control and other tools to use alongside his more standard attacks. Here are just a few pointers that'll help you wrangle the most out of your Ekko. Ekko's too squishy to start fights, but his kit makes him incredible at setting up areas for your initiators to go in. Here's what you want to do. Start by aiming parallel convergence over wherever you want the fight to happen. Once your front line goes in, their knockups, stuns, snares, bolas, bears, whatever, should last long enough for the slowing sphere to appear. As soon as it does, quickly phase dive in to trigger the stun and pick up your shield before pressing all of your buttons on the enemy team. Sometimes you'll be merrily playing a game of League when, out of the corner of your eye, you spot a wounded squishy positioned away from their team. Here's how to get in, kill them, and get out before the enemy team can react. Phase dive in before using the ability's second attack to close range. Ekko makes short work of low health enemies thanks to his W passive. Once they're dead, Chrono Break back to safety. Just make sure your time clone is where you want to go. Ulting to the same spot is hella embarrassing. Finally, this last combo is a perfect way to engage on an enemy team while you're running away. Cast W roughly where your trail is going to be in 4 seconds, then, as the enemy team heads through the slowing zone, Chrono Break to put yourself back into it. You'll trigger the stun and deal tons of damage. Keep an eye out for opportunities where you can abuse your opponent's cooldowns. Even from level 2, you'll have enough threat to punish mistakes, so while it's okay to poke and farm from range with Timewinder, don't be afraid to get aggressive when the time is right. Chrono Break gives Ekko all of the tools he needs to go in and turn around seemingly lost fights. Here, he times the ability perfectly, dodging Lux's ult and styling for the triple. As you start grouping, try using parallel convergence to set up traps for the enemy team. Without vision, they'll walk right into your stun and pretty much hand you a free kill. Also, while we're on this clip, check this out. Dodging abilities with your E's blink requires some predictive play, but when you pull it off, it looks super sick. Alright, so this is how to not play Ekko. With poor positioning, you'll quickly end up giving huge chunks of your life to super avoidable poke. Sometimes so much that you're forced to ult just to try and survive otherwise lethal damage. No matter how cool you think you are, you're still pretty squishy, so try to save your ult for the enemy team and not to cover your mistakes. By using Chrono Break just to reposition, Ekko totally catches Lux off guard and immediately puts her team on the back foot. Speed boosts from his passive, along with Phase Dive's 2 gap closers, mean that your enemies are going to have a pretty hard time getting away from you, even if they're flying a biplane. That's cheating. Alright, final clip time. Ekko nearly dies like 4 times or something stupid. He survives Shockwave by Chrono Breaking through it before dancing on the brink of the fight time and time again. Check out his positioning here. Because he never commits and positions at the edge of the fight, he can use Timewinder to whittle his enemies down and go in when it matters. Thanks to Maokai, he's able to dive back in with a shield and pick apart the enemy team. Oh, and he also totally outplays Zac with some fancy phase dive footwork. I guess Zac's echolocation wasn't quite good enough. Oh man, we almost made it without a pun. Thanks for tuning in to the Ekko Champion Spotlight. Please subscribe to the Riot Games YouTube channel and leave us your comments just below the video.
Come on! Show me something new!